This is Evelynn, the champion I used to fear more than any other champion because of her permanent invisibility, but never really took the time to learn how to play. So for the next 10 hours, I'm going to try to learn Evelynn in 3 steps. First, normal games, second, do some research, and finally, a best of 5 ranked series to put my skills to the test. Oh yeah, and getting challenger coaching from Pabu, the player who took down Faker in a 1v1 All-Star tournament a few years ago. But first, I'll have to complete 3 Evelynn missions to make sure I actually know what I'm doing. So what runes and build should you go on Evelynn? Well, her main rune's Electrocute for burst damage, that one's pretty simple. Evelyn's build is also pretty simple. Lich Bane's your first item because you spam Q and you have good burst. Magi's because if you're ahead you snowball. Death Cap for damage. Void Staff if the enemy team is tanky. Shadow Flame if they're squishy. And Zhonya's Hourglass or Banshee's Veil to make sure you don't lose your Magi stacks. And with all the basics out of the way, I can move one step closer to my ultimate goal, learning every champion so one day I can make the greatest Diego video ever. But before I attempt Evelynn's 3 missions, I gotta do the tutorial first. Basically just win my first game. And let's just say this one was a little bit harder than usual. Oh my god. Sure, I was getting takedowns, but some of them weren't earned at all. Some were just good jungling, like protecting Aatrox from this tower dive, not really like an Evelynn specific thing. And even though some were Evelynn specific, like using my invisibility to surprise Jhin, he only had 1/4 HP, so that wasn't particularly impressive either. So what did I do at this early lead? Not a lot. I kinda just thought my invisibility would magically make every play work. Where's my f***ing ult? But I didn't know how to 5v5 at all with Evelynn, so I kinda just ran it down. Yeah, you can see my disappointment and confusion. Like, even when I tried to play around my invisibility, staying on the edge of my circle most of this play, I still got deleted immediately. Despite these frustrations though, there were moments of brilliance. Her damage is off the charts. My target selection was decent, I guess, and the opposing team used all their abilities on my teammates so I could thrive. But generally speaking, I was still clueless, and in the final play, I kinda just sat helplessly as my team got taken down and I didn't know what I could do to stop it. So I lost. Oh yeah, there's also Evelynn's early game issues, which I hadn't considered. Even though I made it out of this play alive, I got completely trampled by Hecarim, who isn't even that strong of a duelist early. Also, get it? Trampled because Hecarim's a horse? Anyway, there actually is a way to make these situations a little bit better for Evelynn, but again, I'll talk about that during the tip section. Point is, right now, my early game with Evelynn was getting massively punished. Like here, if my Jax wasn't able to help me, I would have lost all of my camps to Hecarim. Basically, before you finish Lich Bane, Evelynn has a lot less burst, so you should probably avoid the enemy jungler for the first 10 or so minutes. Because if you try too hard to make plays and then they don't work out, you will fall so far behind, which is terrible for a champion like Evelynn who snowballs and is feast or famine. Also, kind of unrelated, but I thought this symbol meant that it was a guaranteed takedown like Pyke's ult, but it just means your ult does bonus damage, so don't mess that up. Wow. Anyway, I started going for only guaranteed plays early, like ganking the Malphite with no flash or ult. Started getting a little bit more creative with Evelynn's invisibility, which led to some pretty cool plays in my opinion. And mostly just started valuing my life more, because if I stay alive, I'm less likely to fall behind. And if I'm less likely to fall behind, there's a higher chance that I snowball. Which led to my first game with a super good KDA, a lot of creative takedowns, and my most impressive game yet. I mean, just look at how I use my invisibility to completely flank the enemy team so they have no escape. I was honestly playing so well, which is why I was able to win my first game and finish the Evelynn tutorial. At this point, I was still struggling a lot with Evelynn. She was an assassin with no real mobility. She focused on positioning, which I've always struggled with as a tank player, and her damage wasn't quite what I expected yet. So before I could move on to mission 1, I had to learn from some of my biggest mistakes, like trying to force early plays. Seriously, I almost got taken down not once, but twice, in the same play. But that's a mistake we already kinda knew about. A new one was developing, revolving around my ultimate. Right now, there were a lot of times where I'd just get frustrated and ult even though I knew I wasn't gonna get a takedown. Which is a problem because Evelynn's ult is her most important ability, and I just wasted it 3 times in this game alone. Like, why the heck did I even ult here? But then there were times I wasted my ult because I had too much damage. This is less egregious though because Jhin could have barriered and I just didn't know Evelynn's damage yet. My next big mistake was farming too much, he says as he's ganking in this clip. Jokes aside, playing a champion like Evelynn and only being 1-2-2 in 14 minutes is ridiculous. In fact, the only reason I was 1-2-2 is because there was literally a play in my jungle. Don't get me wrong, farming is very important, especially before level 6, but Evelynn's a champion that snowballs with takedowns because you want gold and Magi stacks. I have to be more willing to give up camps and gank more sometimes. I mean, her ganks are so incredible, it's wild that this is only my 3rd gank in 15 minutes. Looking back, I think I was just so afraid of falling behind, which I struggled with in my first few hours, that I was too nervous to make early plays at all. But the issue back then was forcing bad plays, not avoiding plays altogether. With Evelynn's invisibility, a lot of plays are actually really good. I just had to get used to being permanently invisible and having opportunities most other champions just didn't have access to. Like here, I skip a few camps to gank Darius after I got level 6 because he had absolutely no idea I was nearby. However, ideally you're able to finish all of your camps like in this clip. Darius still fully committed because he had no idea I was nearby, I was just able to snowball even harder. All that being said, I did have to work on my patience a little bit. Lurking in the shadows and flanking Senna here was good, but what I should have done after was back up, go back into invisibility, and then flanked again when my team was around. And then of course, there are the voice lines. How is a guy supposed to focus when Evelynn is screaming,
"Oh yes, make me feel. That's it,"
in my ears? Anyway, with my biggest issues out of the way, I was ready for my first Evelynn mission, early game takedowns, where I have to successfully get a takedown after just my first clear. As of right now, I was not trying to make enough plays early game and was putting too much emphasis on Evelynn's invisibility. By trying to go for more early game ganks, not only would it help me snowball, but it would help me get in the mindset of ganking more. Right away, I focused on early gank opportunities and it started going pretty well, looping around the enemy bot lane without invisibility and getting 2 assists, which don't count as takedowns, but was still an excellent start. This mindset wasn't exclusive to takedowns though. I also wanted to focus more on early game objectives like Dragon. But as I said earlier, I was gonna have to learn which plays were good and which were ambitious. Thanks for the help, Nautilus. But the goal of this mission isn't just early game. It's to get in a more ganking focused mindset and pull off more creative plays like tower diving this Sehen, skipping my Krugs when I see another good opportunity bot lane. Man, I'm getting a lot of assists this game, it's fine. And being reminded that without my ult, I should probably be a little less aggressive with my plays. With all this in mind, I was more confident than ever and once again went for plays at level 4. I saw the enemy Shyvana trying to gank, I set up a counter gank and completed my first mission. Admittedly, my first mission was a little bit easy, but again, it was all about developing a better mindset, once again skipping some camps to punish Shyvana trying to sneak Dragon. Yes, I know I could have stolen the Dragon here, I swear if I get one comment. Anyway, as I continued to gank more and more, I could feel myself getting more comfortable with Evelynn, snowballing more and more, and having my best individual game of the whole challenge so far. Even if my plan for 5v5s was still run at the enemy while invisible and hope for the best. But before I could attempt mission number 2, I was gonna really need to clean up my Evelynn gameplay. Because let's be honest, I was not ready for the intermediate mission yet. So I did some research to get ready for mission 2. Tip 1, you don't always want to use W at the start of a gank. It gives away the fact that you're nearby, so sometimes it's better to just stay invisible and completely catch your opponent off guard. Also, you don't always need the full charm, sometimes the slow is enough to pull off a gank. 2, you can use your ult as a gap closer sometimes, not just for the damage. It's pretty niche, but there are times when it comes in clutch. 3, play for picks. If your team wants to 5v5, do everything in your power to avoid that. Ping enemies when they're on the side wave and try to get a pick so it's a 5v4. This is because Evelynn is pretty bad at 5v5s unless you have flash. Her invisibility just doesn't work well in large crowds. That being said, if you do need to 5v5, set up behind your opponents so if they commit, their focus won't be on you and you can clean up the backline. 5, bushes are extremely neat with Evelynn, because you can use her invisibility to sneak into a bush and then get extremely close to your opponent. They'll expect the notification if Evelynn's nearby, but if you're in a bush, they don't get that. 6, the way you outplay invades before level 6 is to not use your W. You want to combo with your E, Q, and auto attacks and then W, so that way when your E and Q are up again, you have a surprising amount of burst. And the 7th final tip will come later in the video. At this point, you could probably tell I was getting better at Evelynn. I just couldn't figure out how to snowball or carry with her yet. Her lack of mobility was just something I couldn't really wrap my head around. It seemed like people were always able to get away from me. I was getting taken down way too much. And I just didn't really have a plan for the late game, even though my early game was pretty solid. But all of that was about to change. So what better way to improve my late game than Mission 2, 25 Magi stacks, which is basically just ending the game with 25 Magi stacks. This will force me to get as many takedowns as possible to get to 25 stacks, while also limiting my mistakes so I don't lose stacks. Also improving my late game with a ton of free AP, which is something I have not been able to do a single time this whole challenge. Heck, I don't think I've been past 20 stacks a single time. Yeah, right here, the closest I ever got was 18 stacks a few games ago, and it didn't last long. What normally happens when I buy this stupid item is I immediately lose all of my stacks within like 3 minutes, commonly referred to as the Magi's Curse. But by focusing on my stacks, it forced me to think of takedowns not just as gold, but also an extra resource that I really wanted. And I don't know if it was all the tips, my improved skill, or specifically focusing on Magi stacks, but I immediately got 25 for the first time ever. Now, did I end with 25 stacks? Well, no. But in general, I played a lot better, and for the first time this whole challenge, understood the true power of Evelynn. All of a sudden, my games were getting more consistent, and plays that I was going for were magically starting to work. We're kind of cooking this game. Also, I see you, Nautilus, stealing that dragon, you absolute beautiful teammate, you. Where was I? Oh right, I was relentless, ganking constantly with my invisibility, setting up behind the enemy so they had no escape, and was playing like I'd played Evelynn my whole life. And although it was brief, I had another game where I got 25 Magi stacks, with a score of 11 and freaking 0. Okay, 11 and freaking 1. But despite having way better early games and getting Magi stacks better than ever before, this mission really brought to my attention how bad I was late game with Evelynn. Because despite being 17 and 3 this game, I just completely choked in the final few 5v5s because I still didn't know what to do, losing almost all of my stacks in a matter of minutes, and ultimately being unable to carry the game, despite cleaning up 2 takedowns in this final 5v5, which was pretty tilting, not gonna lie. Can I fucking... My E's range is like literally melee! I felt lost, frustrated, and was starting to blame my teammates. You'll look at my team, top lane and mid lane both got absolutely demolished. I know some of you are probably thinking that's valid, but it was getting pretty bad at one point. Why do you have to troll Evelynn? I literally went 11, 5, and 3, you dysfunctional group of... This was the play I trolled, by the way. Garen and Thresh went in alone, Kaisa wasn't there, and I was trying to set up a flank without losing all of my Magi stacks. I just felt like I was playing so well. Was having legitimate fun playing Evelynn, even though she's not usually my playstyle. I just couldn't win, let alone get 25 Magi stacks at the end of a game. I mean, how do I go from being massively positive, securing Baron for my team, and even having 20 or more Magi stacks every game, just to lose most of these games in the biggest moments? It just felt like one mistake with Evelynn late game, one poorly positioned 5v5, and the game was completely turned on its head. You know what? Maybe in the final play, I could have flashed in with my ult and gotten 2 or 3 takedowns. Maybe not, because the opposing team was pretty healthy. The point is, I just couldn't close out games. But as with all great things, Mission 2 was definitely taking a lot of time, but was gonna be so worth it when I completed it. And the game where it happened was not at all what I expected. Actually, starting with a pretty big misplay, to be honest. I walked up too far. Oh, my ease range is so short, dude. A lot of the takedowns I was getting early were pretty slow, clunky, and in some cases, downright reportable how bad this one was. Our talent even disconnected for a few minutes this game. But slowly, my good plays started to work. Holding my ult because I knew these takedowns were guaranteed anyway. Still being completely dumbfounded by Evelynn's damage, even after 6 hours of playing her at this point. Holy sh**, that's so much damage. No, seriously, Evelynn's damage is truly nuts. Riot, look at this. And once again, getting 25 Magi stacks in just 18 minutes this game, which the enemy replied by immediately surrendering, which meant I'd finally completed mission 2, and I had a pretty fun time doing it. This champion's not okay! That being said, my gameplay was far from perfect. And to take my game to the next level, attempt mission 3, and finally play my 5-game ranked series, I was gonna need some help. Enter Pabu, who again, is the player who beat Faker in a 1v1, and someone who's also a challenger jungle coach for the We Teach League Academy. To help me out, Pabu's going to point out the 3 biggest mistakes still holding me back, so without further ado, take it away, Pabu.
Alright, so for my first tip on Evelynn, I wanted to talk about not over-relying on charm. In this situation here, both Swain and LeBlanc are going to present themselves as hittable, because right now you're going to stand around and do a whole load of nothing, right? But what we can do here is use our QE on the Swain and then put our W on someone, and while our spells are on cooldown, we can have the charm ticking. And then when our next Q comes back up, we can use that to proc the charm. For my second tip on Evelynn, our job is to maximize gold and EXP and attacks on lanes. So coming out to these grubs, fighting all this stuff, isn't super important for you. Even if you do technically win this situation, it's really denying you opportunities to progress your game plan. Get on those camps, drop ult on lanes as much as possible, get as much gold and EXP as possible. That's how you consistently win the game on Evelynn. For my third tip on Evelynn, we're going to talk about this concept that I have for a lot of assassins called the flip-flop. So here in this game, now we have enough money for death cap, right? But the important thing is that we show. We are here. What ends up happening is that everyone on the minimap is going to right click you. So we can already be game planning our next attack on the opposite side of the map. She wants to hunt isolated members and looks to attack individuals on the side lanes.
The first tip was one I already kind of knew about. I just didn't realize I was still making that mistake so often. Like, even here, there was no need to charm. The second tip reminded me of earlier mistakes where I was getting punished for forcing objectives sometimes. I was a little nervous my teammates would be annoyed if I didn't contest every objective, so I felt pressured, but it was kind of relieving to know that's not technically Evelynn's game plan. We could always just get objectives after we get picks anyway. But the flip-flop is an advanced macro concept that I would attempt, but as long as I did get picks in the side wave, I'd still be happy. Also, I tried to not start with my W here, but maybe Flash was a little bit overboard. Anyway, with that, on to mission 3, a 0-death game. Oh, would you look at that? I didn't even have to try for this one. Okay, obviously a remake doesn't count, but my first real game attempting this mission was an immediate banger, let me tell you. Early invade, into first blood, into barely surviving by the skin of my teeth.
Oh my god, please don't kill me. Oh, so I'm with you. Yes. I'm out. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, the point of this mission was essentially to take the already difficult 25 Magi stack mission to the next level. Because, as Pabu explained, Evelynn is a champion that wants to snowball with golden XP, which means every mistake is massively detrimental. And Evelynn can't rely on dragons and grubs to win like a lot of the other junglers. So random invades like this, with absolutely zero vision, is just not how you win with Evelynn. I mean, if the enemy jungler is gonna spoon feed me a takedown and leash the objective for me, I guess I'll take it. But usually Evelynn wants to focus on plays like this. So for my next game, I did exactly that. Focused on those kind of plays as much as possible. Basically just camping bot, getting multiple satisfying ultimates. I mean, seriously, this poor bot lane. I avoided large 5v5s like the plague because that's just not what Evelynn wants to do most of the time, and fairly quickly got my perfect Evelynn game. But before I jump into ranked, I do have my bonus tip that I promised all of you. Well, actually, in this case, it's 2 bonus tips. The first being, you can use your passive to see if somebody is in a bush. Yes, they can also see you, but if they're low, it can be a nice way to clean up a takedown if they're trying to recall in a bush or something. But the cooler bonus tip is Green Smite, which is actually Evelynn's highest win rate jungle item. Let me explain. At first I was confused, but notice what happens when I step on this Teemo trap with Green Smite. I don't immediately lose my passive because I didn't take damage. My shield did. The same rule applies with Banshee's Veil. Notice how Sion's slow doesn't reset my passive at all? Which means that Green Smite and Banshee's Veil can help you avoid traps or random AoE damage like Xayah's Feathers without losing your passive. Which is why during my 5 ranked games, I built Green Smite every game just in case. It also gives you 300 extra HP, which helps with Evelynn's squishiness, which is a problem that I still had at this point. Heading into ranked, I was cautiously optimistic. I'd had a few good games back to back, but I still felt like I wasn't fully utilizing her invisibility. The fact that I still struggled to close out games sometimes was a little bit concerning, but I do think that I'd gotten good enough to play ranked. But my first game did not get off to a great start. Sure, technically I won the scuttle and hit level 6 first, but if I lost, my game would have been a complete disaster, especially because I somehow missed my taunt. At this point, Pabu's words echoed in my head.
Even if you do technically win this situation, it's really denying you opportunities to progress your game plan.
Then I had one of my ugliest ganks of the whole challenge. I used my W way too soon, I missed my Q, then started focusing Seraphine for some reason, missed my Q again, and barely finished off Draven. To make matters worse, I made a shocking realization after this relatively clean gank in the bot lane. I was muted the whole time! Point is, I was so nervous, I was making mistakes I wasn't even making in my normal games. God damn it. All things considered though, I was sticking to my game plan of getting picks in the side wave, doing everything I could to make sure Kayle couldn't snowball, all while dealing with a twisted fate who revealed me every time he ulted. I hadn't played against it before, so I had no idea what to do here. Luckily, in the final 5v5, I was able to bait out Kayle's ult, and even though I meant to ult over the wall here, it's fine, I guess. Anyway, it meant she didn't have it about 15 seconds later when Lux landed this amazing Q, which won us the game. Game 2 got off to a pretty routine start. Nothing wild early game other than an assist mid lane, then a gank top that turned into a bit of a clown fiesta. I think if our mid laner had roamed a little bit sooner, it would have been good, but 3 for 1 is still solid. But then, Shen lost his 1v1 versus Teemo top, and he just got tilted, refused to go top lane, and Teemo was able to get 2 towers for completely free. Like, we're 18 minutes into the game, and he's still mid, refusing to help me take down Teemo. In the end, I got so tilted by Shen and got so fixated on Teemo that I just lost focus this game, to be honest. Even though the game score was 25-29, yeah, the game was not even remotely close. Game 3, every lane smashed. I got basically every objective and didn't really need to do anything. We won, but it felt weird. Game 4 started off rough, with my first gank not going quite how I wanted it to, and my second gank not going quite how I wanted it to, but I stuck to the game plan Pabu told me, sacrificing some objectives to gank lanes when I had my ult, and slowly but surely coming back into the game with golden EXP. I skipped camps sometimes to catch the opponent off guard and snowball as much as possible, and continued to play for picks in the side wave. And look at me holding on to my W because I knew the enemy was walking right into me. Ultimately, I won my 3rd game, and it was the first one I was actually proud of. Game 5 start was interesting. I mean, Ezreal, it has not even been a minute. Chill. And although this game started pretty well, ganking bot to hopefully make Ezreal calm down a little bit, things quickly devolved as our support also started flaming. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I didn't play well either, forcing plays just because I was behind instead of using my invisibility to set up good plays. So considering one game I got carried by my team, I had a troll top laner one game, and this game we surrendered in 15 minutes, I decided to play one more game. And boy, am I glad I did. Game 6 was darn near perfect, in my opinion, starting with an early takedown top, followed by a solid gank mid on the way to my topside camps, losing very little tempo, into a perfect use of my ult as a gap closer to finish off another takedown bot lane. Yeah, I ganked all 3 lanes. I even used bushes to get extra close to my opponents, didn't waste my W, and before I knew it, I was 5-0, and on my way to solo carrying this game. I did have one pretty bad mistake though, trying to pick off Scion at 13 minutes. Kaisa didn't really have any damage, I didn't see the Belveth, and I thought that just because I was fed, I could take down anyone. Not the case with tanks. It's fine. The only way we lose at this point is if Kale gets like a triple or something. Oh no. From that moment on, I had locked in and played towards my original game plan. Gold, EXP, and snowballing. I started making play after play, highlight takedown after highlight takedown, and I was just grateful that I decided to play one more game. It even got to the point where the enemy team basically said what we were all thinking. And in the end, winning my 6th game, ending the ranked challenge 4 and 2. Oh yeah, I stream most days on Twitch and YouTube, so feel free to follow on Twitch or like, comment, and subscribe here on YouTube.